Hi guys, Morten Ostad here. Welcome to my channel. Today I felt like jumping on a vinyl community, thread, as it were. I've seen a couple of these videos. I haven't seen the original. It's by someone called Simon. His channel is called the Vinyl Dale. The reason I was aware of this was because I watched Lloyd do his and showing some really cool records, and Doug also, and but I guess I wasn't really paying that much attention to what the premise for this was. I was just watching, nice guys in the vinyl community show some cool records. But then Steve did his response to it. Steve, as in A is for Alice, B is for Bob, C is for cancelled Chicago mega skyscrapers. And he put a bit of a twist on it, because I think the premise was that you were going to show 4 records by 4 artists, and not necessarily be bound by anything other than it being vinyl. But then Steve showed some which were also CDs, but he did a twist on this, and his twist was that these were 4 albums by 4 artists who only ever released 4 albums. And that made me think of something I tried to do a year and a half, 2 years ago, which never really took off. You might remember I did videos about which I called what did I call them? I called them so no 4th album then, about bands who only released 3 albums and then we never heard anything more, or we're still waiting. So I thought I'd try to sort of follow up on what Steve did there, and just show 4 albums by 4 artists who all just released 4 albums, and we've never seen neither. Well, they are actually all broken up for all intents and purposes, but it'll be a little bit of CDs and a little bit of vinyl for this one, I'm afraid. So anyway, so the first couple of bands are bands that broke through in the UK and to some extent internationally around the beginning of this millennium, in the early 2000s. I've talked about bands like these and these bands before. They were, I think they were a bit of a reaction to how music had been up until, and sort of a somewhere between a new breed of garage sounding bands and early pre-Britpop type bands, and a reaction to sort of the death of Britpop in a way. And we got a whole bunch of these bands, and one of them that came along and released their first studio album in 2003 were Athlete. Now, a lot of people around the world might be fairly so a lot of people, outside the UK at least, would probably think, who were they? And rightly so in a way. But in the UK, they were briefly quite spectacularly big. This their debut album, which was Vehicles and Animals, sold in the UK 2 times platinum, which was then, I reckon, more than 1 million copies in the UK. And I really, this really resonated with me. Although, to be honest, this was not my first purchase. My first purchase was their second album, just called Tourist, and it came out in 2005. I reckon. Well, yeah, 2005. These releases were on Parlophone, yeah. And this also sold platinum, more than 500,000 copies. And then their popularity started waning a bit. We got this record in 2007. Again, a very nice, very good album. Beyond the Neighborhood. Yeah, I really liked this, I remember. And then I think, yeah, 2009, so fairly productive. We got Black Swan, which didn't resonate very well with me. They went quiet. I think they did touring up until 2011 or something. And although they have never officially disbanded, this London band pretty much, you know, its members in interviews and so on, and working with other artists, have started referring to their band in the past tense, so we can just assume that we'll probably never see anything again from Athlete. Another band I mentioned before were also coming up and around that same time, maybe a year after Athlete. There were two brothers, Greg and Aaron Gilbert, and they formed their band in their gaff, their home of Southampton. And they released an album that I remember. Again, I don't remember exactly how I ended up listening to it, but I really, really liked it, and it resonated with me. This was, of course, around the days of CDs, but later on, was it a year and a half ago or something, got this vinyl reissue of Delays. And so this is Faded Seaside Glamour, a wonderful studio album debut by Delays. And I think, what was it, 2004 they came around on Rough Trade. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was a year after Athletes. And they also, here is the CD, by the way. And they also kept going, got quite popular. We got UC Colors. And then we got, which was in 2005, and we got Everything's the Rush. Remember these CD covers? Yeah, 2008. And then we got Star, Tiger, Star, Ariel in 2010. And then, yeah, they also toured after this and kept talking about getting ready to do another album, maybe even recorded some stuff. And then they had a hard time getting together. Their band members were becoming fathers and stuff like that, sort of hindered them in getting doing anything. And then, unfortunately, in 2021, the lead singer, by the way, known for his falsetto vocals and all that, passed away at I think he's 41 or 42 years old from cancer. And although the band is still referred to as existing, I would assume in all practicality it's a band we'll never hear from again, unfortunately. So the next band I'm going to talk about is a band I mentioned several times, and that's Catatonia. Of course, I have to mention a Welsh band in a video like this. Catatonia rose in the early 90s. Band members who were in and out of other Welsh bands. I know the bass player, I think it was in and later joined full-time Super Furry Animals. And the enigmatic, the wonderful, the beautiful, the gorgeous lead singer, of course, was Cerys Matthews. Boy, was I in love with her. And when I still see her, I still, videos and things she does today, she's just gorgeous speaking voice, gorgeous personality, and that Welsh accent. Welsh proficient, Welsh language people. So they first songs they released were also in Welsh, and their first EP which I now, of course, have forgotten, for Tinkerbell, I think it was, were largely Welsh. And then they released their debut album, unbeknownst to me. I learned about this band when I was in film college. But then again, it came out the same year, so I wasn't late to the show. 1996, Way Beyond Blue. This wonderful, wonderful album. And among some other Welsh vinyl from Super Furry Animals and Manic Street Preachers, this is one of the ones that I want the most of all vinyl records ever. I really, really do want this. And for some reason, I've never been... I never remember to look for it when I should, I suppose. But yeah, you got a lot to answer for. Baby, I love you. Sweet Catatonia and Lost Cat, yeah. This is actually my third CD. I lost... The first one got nicked at film college just before I was leaving. And the second one, just a few months later, I was listening to on the train, on my Discman, and forgot... I think I'd stuck the CD between some newspapers and then threw them out or something. Yeah, wonderful. And they followed that up with a much bigger seller, International Velvet. And there's the price tag of the M&M shop. There was a Danish, multimedia chain store. Which doesn't exist. Yeah, singles from here were Mulder and Scully, X-Men, X-Files days, I Am the Mob, Game On, Road Rage, and Keris became very much the it girl and was in, GQ magazines and fashion magazines, and were invited to work with other people. And the band Space released a single with her. What was it called again? It was her and the singer from Space hanging from the kofanger, the cow catcher, the bumper on a car. Singing about how Tom Jones saved their lives because they were about to kill each other and murder each other, but then they heard Tom Jones and they got along again. So each time things were starting to escalate, they would listen to Tom Jones and things would work out. And then she actually did a single with Tom Jones. So yeah, big. That was them hitting the big time, and they followed it with a third album, which was Equally Cursed and Blessed. I wonder how many years it took before I actually noticed the Fox. CDs. What are you going to do? I remember I was not so thrilled about this album, but because on the previous one they had one Welsh language song, I think. Well, they didn't have any on this, and I was disappointed by that. And then they released their fourth album, and things were clearly not going so well because Keris was admitted to rehab. She was struggling with alcoholism and also struggling with cigarette addiction. And I know it's not a magazine we're always very happy about, but I remember I was really pissed off at NME. They really tore them a new one, saying some really shitty stuff about the lead single from this final album, which was Paper, Scissors, Stone. Was it Godspeed? I don't remember now. And then there were some rumors in August of 2001 when this came out that they were breaking up, and the band released a statement on their website saying no, that was complete bullshit and nothing to worry about. They were just going through some things. And then in September, the record label announced that Catatonia were no more. So they followed this up with a fairly extensive double that was a double compilation album. This is a 4x4, so I don't think I should show it, should I? And the other members went various ways. Was a guy called Powell. Who did he work for again? Oh God, I can't remember now. I know he was involved in some musical project with the now late drummer from Stereophonics. And Keris recorded a solo album. I remember I have it here somewhere. And then she's worked very much in sort of the very closely and stayed at home in Wales. Working in broadcasting and radio, BBC Wales, I think. She's also recorded more music, largely Welsh language, and yeah, she does a blog now, and she seems happy, which is good. So yeah, that was unfortunate at the end of Catatonia, but yeah, one of my absolute favorite bands from that time period, and very much part of the cool Cymru movement, which was sort of a regional Welsh answer, and a good answer to the cool Britannia of the Tony Blair era Britain, I suppose you would say. And finally, we move across the channel to France for just a quick look at another band that unfortunately only gave us 4 albums, and that was the wonderful Mano Negra. Not gonna say that terrible much about them, because I feel I did so in a couple of videos where I even rehearsed speaking a bit of French for you guys. So you could always go and watch those if you would like to. After recording their final album, Casa Babylon, they did, after some quite extensive touring, in part in Scandinavia, where they were quite popular. And Vattenfestivalen, I remember, was one of their last sort of hurrahs. And then they congregated to record a new album. I think the brothers were not at very good speaking terms, and the others felt that the Manu Chao was sort of taking over, and he replaced the entire band, and I think was planning to record again as Mano Negra, but in the end he just threw out the whole Mano Negra thing and recorded a solo album, recorded a couple of those, and released a new solo album this year, which I think, when I did research for Mind the Gap bands and artists who had very long breaks between albums, I think his break was 24 years actually. So yeah, so that was 4 albums by 4 bands, and who only released 4 albums. An homage to Steve, and of course the originator of this thread, which I went along with Steve's version of. And hope you enjoyed that. Hope to see you guys soon in another video. Please click like, that helps my channel. If you want to subscribe, well, that makes me happy. Bye bye.